What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. And sales are needed. We await, the window is shut, and we await the confirmation of a Bryan Mbeumo deal to Manchester United from Brentford. Don't worry about all of this Thomas Frank stuff. Oh, is Thomas Frank going to take him with him to Spurs? No, that's not going to happen. The window may have shut, but talks haven't stopped when it comes to Bryan Mbeumo. Seemingly, we're just waiting for a here we go. And once we get a here we go, you think an announcement won't be too long after that. Then we move on to Victor Gyokeres. We've already got Cunha through the door. He's getting assists for his country yesterday, helping people score goals in Brazil. But we await news of Victor Gyokeres. Once Mbeumo's done, we turn to the Swedish striker. And if we're going to get the Swedish striker, according to all the reports, we're in contact every single day. We're picking up the phone. Victor, you still interested? Well, he's still busy dealing with Sporting because he's furious. They've gone back on the gentleman's agreement. Initially, they said you can go for £58 million. Turns out Sporting are asking for £67 million. And whilst he's figuring out all of that, we need to sell players. Marcus Rashford, he wants to go to Barca, but according to Fabrizio Romano, it's only got about a 40% chance of happening. Do you like that kind of Steiner maths right there? 40 and a third. And if we add that to another 20% of possibly this player going and a 14% chance, then they've got 3/3 and 3/4 chance of winning at sacrifice. So something completely different. What about Alejandro Garnacho? Initially, he was linked to Napoli. Kevin De Bruyne, we got a here we go to Napoli this morning. But is he going to be staying in the Premier League? Could he go to Chelsea? Could he go to Arsenal? Are Arsenal looking at signing Garnacho? Now, when it comes to another sale, Antony, turns out this morning, Real Betis, they put in a bid, but for a loan with an option of £35 million. Not interested in that. Not interested. We need permanence. We need sales if we're going to sign Victor Gyokeres and other players too. It's going to be maybe a long couple of days as we wait for this real nitty-gritty of the transfer window. The nitty-gritty of the transfer window, of course, the transfer window is not just about bringing players in. It's also about moving players on. And we've got a lot that needs to be moved on. So the question is, who's going to be first? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section, in the live chat. Click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, as you can see right there in the top right-hand corner. This is the Transfer View, and it's a So Lowen show this morning. How is everybody doing? Hey, look, you know, I've seen in the chat this morning, D is in there, says this is absolute waffle. He's also in there, says delusional clowns. But it's in there every morning, you know, because you've got a, you know, for some reason, D's some kind of sort of masochist, likes to punish himself every morning, decides, you know what, I'm gonna tune into something that I hate every morning and get involved with the community that I say are. I mean, who's the clown then, really? You know, we're all happy to be here. We're happy to be here. Look, you know, I can see Nikhil's in there. I can see Simon's in there. I can see Starlord's in there. I can see Manish is in there. I can see who else is in here this morning. Fabsy's in there. Says, how's the weather? It's quite nice, actually. Terrence says, Steiner math, really? It's foolproof. 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 As we got Wafugi, is that how you say it? It says we're here. Oh, have I got that? Have I got the Eubank sound for that one? Oh, which page? I've got so many bloody pages. The Eubank page. We're here.
We're real, and we are a terror. And the procedure will be parliamentary.
Mr. Aston says, buzzing to be here. Yes, we're all here. Good morning, Owen. Says, what a good morning to you. Lil Yo-Yo's in there. Says, big up, Owen up. What's going on, Lil Yo-Yo? Marion's in there. Says, hi, Owen. D says, get on with it. Owen, tell us the bullshit. Get on with it. Bloody hell. Well, because D told me to. I'll be behaved. Get on with it. We are going to talk about sales. We are going to talk about Victor Gyokeres. We are going to talk about Marcus Rashford. And we are going to talk about Antony. Let's get a quick... I mean, already, we're well over 100 likes already. We're close to 150. We've already got 750 people through the door. Let's see if we can get to our 500 first. And then, hey, sky's the limit, yeah? Sky's the limit of what we can achieve this morning, right? Let's begin With the sales that are required. Now, this comes courtesy of Darmashev, as KG would say. Darmashev, not Darmashev. Darmashev, who said that Manchester United have a specific budget for the transfer market, understood to be allocated for the deals of Matheus Cunha, which of course is done, and also Bryan Mbeumo, which is coming along nicely. After that, the club would need to sell some players in order to finance a deal the size of Victor Gyokeres. Now, speaking of Gyokeres, we'll talk about him and his frustrations, of course, with Sporting in a bit. It's kind of a continuation, but that report coming out of Portugal was essentially co-signed by Fabrizio Romano in a piece that he was talking about too. But we need sales. We know this, and we need sales. And this is when I say this is the nitty-gritty part of the transfer window, isn't it, for Man United? Because we can do a deal in terms of bringing a player in. Of course we can. You know, as bad as we are and have operated in the transfer market over the last decade plus, we have been able to do deals. We can sign players. We're good at signing players. We're not good at signing players for good money. We're not good at signing players and putting them on wages, but we can do a deal. We can do a transfer. Of course we can. But it's the sales. It's the sales. And this summer, more than any, it's critical how many people we can sell. And you would think there are some layups for us to do. Pretty easy ones this summer. We know Antony had a great loan spell at Betis. Surely we can do that one easy. We'll talk about Antony in a bit. Alejandro Garnacho, when it comes to Garnacho, after the Europa League final, Ruben Amorim said to him, "You better pray you can find a new club, mate." He said it in that weird accent as well. It was quite odd considering he doesn't talk like that. But he said, "You better pray you can find a new club because Garnacho's off." We had it over the weekend. Fabrizio saying, "It's official. It's done. Garnacho will leave Manchester United this summer." Marcus Rashford, he's been out of United, well, since the end of last year. He went on loan to Aston Villa. He's not going to stay there. He's still trying his very best to get a move to Barcelona. Jadon Sancho, he's not going to be integrated and he's going to be on his way out. But already we're starting to hear those reports of, well, Dortmund might be interested, but salary, of course, couldn't agree that move to Chelsea. He's on that wage of 200, sort of 250. Chelsea said, no, we don't. That's not our wage structure here. And you would have thought, well, is he going to sort of bend the knee to get into the Champions League? And, he's well liked at Chelsea. Nope. So if he wants to go to Europe, how is he going to find the wages? Who's going to pay those kind of wages for a player that's done really next to nothing over the last couple of years and is out of favour at Manchester United? It's going to be difficult. And then that's when we get into other names. Andre Onana, where we've heard the occasional journalist come out and say he's expected to leave this summer. Well, expected. Okay. We've expected a lot of things. We didn't expect Manchester United to finish 15th last season, but it happened. So expectations versus reality can be a totally different thing, can't it? And then you get into other names as well that possibly, should they be on the way out? Rasmus Højlund. The links to Inter Milan are very, very real. But then you also get the other reporting suggesting, despite them being real, he wants to stay and fight for his place. Where have we heard that before? We've heard it about a lot of players, haven't we? When there are players that we go, they're not really good enough, they should go. Some clubs come in and they go, nope, I want to fight for my place. And then there's nothing that Manchester United can do. So this is going to be really, I think, over the next couple of weeks. Of course, there'll be focus on the Mbeumo one because we do have the funds to do that. That's why, once again, I'm not worried about the Mbeumo one. I know that I think we do have to kind of, I don't want to say calm down or anything like that, because we've done this before, haven't we? When, we panic that stuff isn't happening in the window and then stuff didn't happen in the window. I think back to the Erik ten Hag first season. I remember the Erik ten Hag first summer and it was like, nothing's happening. And I remember at the time sort of preaching for calm. Turns out, we did end up signing a lot of players in the end, but we ended up, with the Antony, 100 million euro, Casemiro, like 70 million quid. There was a lot of panic in that. The Frankie de Jong saga. There was Murto showing up at the Turin airport for an hour and then going back home because we were linked to Rabiot for 5 minutes. There was Arnautovic and he was going to be on his way. And then there was like a boycott, and then United sort of dropped their interest. And it was that summer was just, even thinking about it again, awful, just terrible. And then the summer after that, it was followed up with one of the worst summer transfer windows of all time. When in terms of sort of aging poorly, Onana, Mount, and Rasmus Højlund and Johnny Evans. And to this day, the sort of best signing out of all of them was Johnny Evans. He's just left. He's retiring. He wasn't even meant to sign for United. So, yeah. So look, when it comes to moving quickly or what have you, this summer we are moving fairly quickly, aren't we? Right? When it comes to the Cunha one's done, the Mbeumo one, I do get that there is maybe a little bit of not trepidation, but sort of anxiety surrounding it, because it felt like it was moving at a specific pace, wasn't it? It was like, this is moving really, really quick. Like the David Ornstein article came out, he only wants United. Then it was like a day or two later, first bid's gone in and that's rejected. And you thought, okay, maybe a couple of days later, second bid going, but this is moving in that kind of fairly quick sort of manner. And then maybe over the last sort of 7-ish days, 5-7 days, it's gone a little bit quiet, a little bit quieter, but I still don't have really any worries about it. I don't think it's going to go elsewhere. I don't think the deal's going to collapse. James kind of alluded to this on the red carpet on Monday. And tier 1 James, by the way, he's been on fire in this transfer market so far. Shout out to him and be sure to subscribe to the Muppeteers, as always. As he gets closer, I think, to 30K. I think he said he was getting closer to 30K. So he was kind of alluding to the fact that United have to be a bit careful with the Mbeumo deal, not to go too hard, too quickly for Victor Gyokeres, because if they show their hand a little bit and say, we've actually got this extra £58 million ready to spend on Gyokeres, then Brentford could go, I thought you didn't have that much money. I thought you could only do 2 transfers, and that was Cunha and that was Mbeumo. So I thought we were negotiating for around that 60 million, 65 million pound, including add-ons included kind of range. So you're telling me you've got an extra 58 million pounds you can spend? That's not what you told us originally. You've got to be very careful, because then Brentford are going to want to, it's a big summer for them too. They lose the manager that's responsible for them being in the Premier League. They're going to lose one of their marquee players, arguably their best player. Their goalkeeper they've lost, although they've replaced him with a very good goalkeeper in Kelly. But naturally so, I think if I was a Brentford fan, and maybe Flex will ask Natalie Saw at some point for a future preview when we play them this season, but I could understand if there was a bit of concern and worry there, because who knows, it could all fall apart. They could be in the Championship next season. You never know. You never know when you lose key personnel at the club. So I do think that's where United are kind of trying perhaps to not show their hand too much. Maybe. But I'm not concerned about that. When it comes to the sales, I do think, and I have just seen that report about the Gyokeres stuff, which we'll get into in just a second. I do think when it comes to the sales, though, and I'd like to know what you guys think about this too in the chat. Are we going to have to resign ourselves to the fact that a couple of those players that we earmarked, they're going to be going this summer permanently? Is there actually going to be a couple of loans in the end? Because once again, because of the sins of the past, the finances don't really work, and the players are still in a position of power when it comes to their contracts. And, for instance, let's say Jadon Sancho, he's going to leave. If he really digs his heels in again, and he goes, I only want to go to Dortmund, are we going to find ourselves in a position where it's, actually, we thought we were going to sell him permanently, but once again, he's going out on loan, and this time it's an obligation to buy, but it's a real obligation. I don't know. And I know people say he's got a year left in his contract. I think he's got a year +1. So that might be a thing. Rashford. The Rashford one, I mean, we saw it in January. They're clearly, and we'll talk about this in a bit more in depth a bit later on, but clearly there is a desire on his part. Like, for some reason, he thinks, I don't know if he's been told, his representatives, what have you, you can go to Barcelona. You can go to Barca. Whether or not he's good enough to go to La Liga champions or what have you, I don't know. It's another conversation. But if he's got his heart literally set on that, then unless Barca once again sort of fob him off and say, well, finances, well, whether or not we can do it, just sort of sit tight a little bit again. Just sit tight. Does he then find himself going out on loan again? And if he does find himself going out on loan again, is it to a Premier League club again, where they can cover a lot of the wages? I don't know. I really don't know. And it feels like, particularly when it comes to the Rashford one being as quiet it is, the only thing we're hearing about Rashford is Barca. And it kind of does echo the same thing that we heard in January, wasn't it? Remember, once we got to sort of December, and it was definitely like, look, Rashford's, he's on the way out. He's on the way out. He's not. Ruben Amorim doesn't want him, and he's not being included in the matchday squads. That's it. And initially you got the flurry of links of, oh yeah, Saudi are interested, this club's interested, blah, blah, blah. But then it was just like, well, no, he wants Barca. And then it became apparent like the last week of the window, didn't it? That, well, Barca ain't coming in. And Rashford, you've got to play football. So it's like, Aston Villa. Okay, we'll go Aston Villa. So I do look, there's still a lot of time to go until the window shuts, and a lot of time to work on these sales. But also, with the time, you've still got to get these deals done in order to maybe go for a Gyokeres or go for a goalkeeper, go for a midfielder. So there is just something in me that I just don't, as much as we've earmarked certain people leaving, like Rashford's going to go, Sancho's going to go, Garnacho's going to go, this player's going to go, that player's going to go. Garnacho will leave on a permanent because his wages aren't that super high. He actively wants to leave. There are multiple clubs interested in him. And he's not going to dig his heels in for one specific club. Ideally, there's a report suggesting ideally he'd stay in the Premier League. Chelsea are interested, or were interested in January. Arsenal could be interested in him. Other clubs in the Prem could be interested. Like, it's not a difficult deal for all Premier League clubs to do. It's also not a difficult deal for European clubs to do. He's still young, so you probably get, 50, 60 million pounds, maybe, plus add on something involved in that, maybe even a salon fee. We'll see. The salary is not too difficult to pick up. So Garnacho, he'll go this summer, and that's pure profit. So that will obviously help a lot of things. Those two of Sancho and Rashford, if we ended up selling both of them permanently this summer, we've done, I think, really well. One of them is going to be a loan, and I'm leaning towards Rashford, maybe even both of them. And we get into that obligation, but we have to really nail down it's an actual obligation. Don't put in the stuff that was put into that Chelsea one about he could come back. No, there's no wiggle room. No wiggle room at all. Not at all. I don't know. So, again, that's why I say that's when we get into the nitty-gritty of the transfer window. Absolutely. We've got close to 1,300 people watching, which is fantastic this morning. We're closing in on 300 likes. We're 19 likes away. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Let's get to a couple of members chats and super chats. Chris is the latest member of the UB Members Club. Chris Johnson Adventures. What adventures is Chris Johnson going on? Find out. The latest member of the UB Members Club. Welcome to you. Terence, always here in the morning for the morning shows, the Transfer View, the Morning View, says, I am curious as to who will take on the freedom fighters' wages. Only team comes to mind is probably a Saudi side. Also, should we keep Shaw for next season? No. And it always makes me laugh, actually, with the Shaw stuff, because sometimes during shows like this, which, look, you talk about the news, you talk about the stories, and you talk about what's actively happening out there. And sometimes you'll get to the end of the show, and then it'll be like, you haven't spoken about Shaw again being protected. Nobody's talking about Shaw. That's the problem. That's the problem, isn't it? who in their right mind would sign Luke Shaw? We're the only fools that would give him new contracts or anything like that. Because at this rate, Luke Shaw is playing like single-digit games every season. It's mad, isn't it? When it comes to Luke Shaw, so the only way that he will leave United is when his contract expires. It's the same as the Phil Jones principle. Those players, people like Lindelof. Remember, every transfer for the last 2 or 3 years, every transfer window, Lindelof's get linked to a club. I don't know how many times he's been linked to like a Turkish side. He's going to Fenerbahce, he's going to Galatasaray, and then I'm not gonna leave until his contract expires. It'll be the same thing when it comes to Luke Shaw, and yeah, I mean, because he played in that Europa League final, and then was he even involved in any of the matches after that? I don't even know if he was. I can't remember. So, yeah, it's just no one will touch him. In fact, I'd be flabbergasted if we heard a story about Luke Shaw leaving this summer in terms of like another club's come in for him, because it just doesn't feel like it's on the cards. It's the only thing that's on the cards is contract expiring in a couple of years? When's it expire? 2027? Luke Shaw contract expiry. June 2027. He signed a new 4-year contract in April of 2023. And that was, of course, based off that season, Ten Hag's first season. He actually played quite a few games, didn't he? That is from the Phil Jones school of contract negotiations. Play a couple of games, get that contract done. 4 years. Oh my goodness me. So yes, nothing on Luke Shaw. Shocker, I know. I was half expecting that. Right, let's give a bit of an update here on Victor Gyokeres. What is the latest on Victor Gyokeres? Well, the contacts continue, and Gyokeres, of course, as was reported in Portugal a couple of days ago, is furious. Gyokeres is furious. There's been a fallout, and this morning, that same outlet that reported that he was furious with Sporting, he removed the team from his social media bios, his Instagram bio, as well as the Swedish team and also his boot sponsorship. So apparently he's not repped by Nike and also doesn't play for Sweden anymore. The most important one's a Sporting one. Sporting been removed from the bio. Huge falling out between the player and the club. Why? All stems around this gentleman's agreement. The gentleman's agreement was that there would be £50 million up front and £8 million in add-ons, a collective fee of around £58 million. That was what was agreed on for Victor Gyokeres to leave Sporting this summer. It's been well known for the last sort of 12 months or so, even before Ruben Amorim came in to the Manchester United head coach role, that Gyokeres was going to be leaving this summer for around £58 million. Now, he does have a release clause of much higher, but Sporting had agreed with Gyokeres. We're not going to let you go for that. We'll let you go for a little bit less. That was the understanding. Well, turns out, despite this £58 million gentleman's agreement, Sporting reportedly have been asking and demanding clubs to pay £67 million. And Gyokeres is furious, suggesting, are you scuppering me out of a move? Now, is this because there are only a few clubs in for him? Is it because of which clubs are in for him that they think they can squeeze more money out of this situation? They've gone back on their words. Well, according to a new report this morning, Gyokeres is not only furious with Sporting, he's told them he will never play for them again. It was kind of expected that he would never play for him again, but he's going to take it one step further. Not only is he furious, not only is he never going to play for him again, he's ready to go on strike. He's ready to go on strike. He will not return for pre-season. The relationship between the club and the player is broken. According to the record in Portugal, Manchester United and Arsenal remain interested. Of course, Arsenal, though, continuing to go for their pursuit of Benjamin Sesko. That would mean United are front runners. Are we in pole position? And is Gyokeres going to go on strike to sign for Manchester United? Can you smell that? Can you smell that? It's got the makings of a saga, doesn't it? It's got the makings of a saga. Is this going to be a saga that drags out all summer for us? Or can Manchester United move some players on and get this one done quickly? That's the big question. Now, a bit more on this. Fabrizio Romano actually confirming these reports that Gyokeres is angry. This is what Romano said. He said, Gyokeres is angry. Why? Because there was an agreement between the player's agents and Sporting that the player would be allowed to leave this summer for a transfer fee of around 65 million euros, which is around 58 million pounds. This was dependent on payment terms, installments, etc. Why this agreement and not paying the value of the release clause, 100 million, because the player has always been serious and professional. Last summer, he received many offers but decided to stay. And in January, he had the chance to leave but decided to stay. Therefore, out of appreciation, Sporting then agreed to let him leave for this reasonable sum. But now the club is asking for an amount higher than 65 million euro and perhaps up to 80 million euro. And for this reason, the player may not be happy with the club's behavior, which has made the situation tense. Let's see what happens. But I still see Victor Gyokeres leaving Sporting this summer. And as I mentioned, just coming out of Portugal this morning, Gyokeres has told the club he will never play for him again. He's ready to go on strike. He will not return for pre-season, and the relationship between the club and the player is broken. So it's getting very nasty. It's getting very nasty on the way out. As far as the latest developments when it pertains to Manchester United and Gyokeres, according to the latest reports, Manchester United and Gyokeres are still in contact. The striker has signalled that he can imagine a transfer even without Champions League. Man United is not without a chance in the bidding for Gyokeres. Now, when it comes to all of this drama that's surrounding it all, and Gyokeres preparing to go on strike and what have you, I mean, does it worry you? Does it concern you? I suppose it depends. Look, it depends how you look at this one. You could look at it and maybe have an element of concern surrounding that because the relationship now is so severed and it's so bad. Someone could, just sweep in, pay that extra money, and Gyokeres is so desperate to leave now Sporting that if United don't get it done quickly, he just wants to have the move sorted. He's not going to be staying around and he's just going to go. That's possible, I suppose. But the other part of it is kind of like what the report was hinting at there, and it's something we've spoke about, and it's actually led to people being concerned about it, is, well, who else is in? Who else is in for Gyokeres at the moment? I mean, they're saying Arsenal, but if you look at Romano and everything he said on social media over the last few days, it looks all systems go on Benjamin Šeško, saying that the talks are ongoing, it's getting closer and closer and closer. And if they spend the money required to get Šeško, which will be a lot, I don't think then they'll probably end up going for Gyokeres. But they signed 2 strikers, like top-tier strikers in the summer? Probably not. So as much as Arsenal were interested, I don't really see that. Chelsea are the kings of swooping in on a transfer. They have done it many, many times, particularly in the Clear Lake era, the Todd Boehly era. The amount of times they've swooped in on a transfer, they've had a lot of other clubs do the heavy lifting, and then at the last minute they come in and go, there you go, we'll give you the money. Wouldn't rule it out. Can't rule anything out with Chelsea at all. And as Jack mentions there in the chat, they've got a good relationship. They've done those deals, haven't they, with the Sporting players. Kenda's on his way in 2026. So I guess don't rule that one out. What other clubs in the Prem could be interested? I mean, there's still the chatter about Liverpool. Should they sell Darwin Núñez? Because there is Saudi interest in him, and he's been looking at a Saudi move. Liverpool have just about to spend I believe the technical term is a shit ton of money on the Florian Wirtz deal. Was it 150 million euro, which is around 127 million pounds, as add-ons included. Just wow. And the thing is with the Wirtz one, yeah. I'm not going to profess myself to be a German football expert. I'm not. I don't watch the Bundesliga every single week. Like most people, maybe if you see Bayern play in Dortmund or Bayern play in Leverkusen over the last couple of years, you'll maybe tune in. Obviously saw Florian Wirtz in the Euros last year. I'll be honest, in the Euros, I was not blown away by him at all. If anything, I was actually a bit disappointed because after the season that Leverkusen had, I thought, right, he's going to be amazing. And it wasn't that. But look, who knows? He could be very successful at Liverpool. I just hope it won't happen, but I just hope there is the same energy kept with him as we've seen with other high-profile, big signings, or expensive signings that have come into the Premier League in the past. A lot of people are rightfully so, and again, we're asking for things that aren't going to happen. But you look at Graham Souness, shall we say, and his treatment of Paul Pogba when he was at Manchester United, and he always circled back to the money that was spent on him and how he wasn't delivering what was 100 million euros worth of talent or 100 million euros worth of performances, right? So if Florian Wirtz has a couple of stinkers, I don't know, just has a couple of bad games or what have you, let's just see if they keep the same energy, right? Because they definitely will, right? No, that's what I thought. I remember Paul Pogba, and I wasn't even the biggest Paul Pogba fan, yeah? You saw that when that whole, nonsense about, he should come back stuff last year. Move on, because there were issues there. But I remember when Paul Pogba, in the opening game of Ollie's last season, remember when he got 4 assists in that game? And Graham Souness came out after the game and was like, he's still got to do more. he's still got to do more. And it was like, what? 4 assists in a game? He's got to do more, though. He's got to do more because he's 100 million. I'm like, okay, so apparently the precedent's been set, right? It's 4 assists, more than. So if that was for a 100 million euro player, not even pounds, 100 million euros player, Florian Wirtz 127 million. He's going to be getting 5 assists a game, 6 assists a game. That's what it is. Got to do more. Yeah. But I would just say that I just, what history has kind of shown, hasn't it? History has tended to show with those kinds of transfer fees that very few live up to them. Very, very few do. Because it's almost impossible to with that level of expectation. You would maybe say, look, Declan Rice, they signed him for, was it 100 million? I still say that's too much, but not many people talk about Declan Rice in terms of matching up to the price tag because he's done well at Arsenal. Caicedo, look, he's very good, but I still say 150 million quid. Was that what it was? 115 million quid? I'm saying these two players have done well, but I'm still like, it's a lot of money. Grealish, was that 100 million, wasn't it? City, how a couple of seasons later, he's out. He's not going to be in the Club World Cup squad. That wasn't value for money. But that's when you get into this whole what is value for money, because at the time, he was worth £100 million to Aston Villa. They were not the Villa that they are now. And if it wasn't for Jack Grealish and some technical errors in terms of goal line technology, Villa wouldn't be in the Premier League. So he was worth £100 million to them. But he wasn't a £100 million signing for Man City. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see just how much scrutiny is put on Florian Wirtz. It's not Florian Wirtz's fault, but we'll see how that one goes. And then when it comes to Bayer Leverkusen, look, they've just got money for Frimpong. They just got a load of money for Florian Wirtz. Eric, look, I know that things were maybe they didn't end the way we wanted them to end, and you didn't want them to end. And you've already signed a Dutch player in Flecken. Come on. We've got some players you've worked with in the past. Andre Onana, Antony, Garnacho. We could just you got the money to spend. Why not? Just why not? And by the way, it's not to say that because I saw someone say, "Oh, come on, Owen, we'd love Florian Wirtz." It's not. I'm not being one of those fans where it's like Florian Wirtz is rubbish because he signed for Liverpool. Of course, he's not rubbish. Again, I will profess that I haven't watched him enough to really make a good, educated comment on that. But just that pressure of when you sign somewhere for like 127 million pounds, holy shit! Like that is you're going to have to be good. You're going to have to deliver. Like, oh my god, you're going to have to deliver when it comes to that, because as we've seen, the pressure will just be on. Unless you're the Grealish example is interesting because that has gone and shown that if the team is successful, but you're not really doing all that much, but the team is successful, then people won't talk about it as much. They won't. So City, they were winning trophies. They were winning Premier Leagues. They won the treble. So people were sort of going, Grealish is a bit shit. He's not 100 million, but no, what can you say? City are winning stuff. If Liverpool again win the league this season, it won't matter. Like it won't. I guess Arsenal's barometer of success isn't trophies, clearly, but they're a consistent top 4 team now. And they got to semi-finals of the Champions League, and Declan Rice scored some brilliant goals to beat Real Madrid. So it's like, see, you know. So if the team around you is doing well, then there won't be the scrutiny. But I would think in terms of as Court Star says there, that's exactly what I was about to say. You sort of go, how many 100 million pound plus transfers have been successful? And it's from however we've seen over the last sort of 5 or so years, there's only a select few that you would go, that was real value for money, isn't it? Real value for money. It's tough. It's really, really tough. But look, Liverpool have spent money in the past on people like Virgil van Dijk. £80 million looks like a snip now, doesn't it? I mean, and I remember at the time there was a lot of criticism for the Van Dijk one of signing someone from Southampton, and Southampton bottom of the league at the time, and 80 million quid. And look, he's been brilliant. So I can't really argue with that much. So we'll see, but pressure will certainly be on. But yes, when it comes to Gyokeres, he's going to go on strike. And I guess we just have to worry about if people are going to be sweeping in. We're less than 100 likes away from 500 likes. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Also, be sure to subscribe, as you can see right there in the top right-hand corner. We're over 195,000 subscribers at the moment, so we get closer to 200K. I don't think we actually nailed down. Flex nailed down. I tell you what, I don't know who's done it. I feel like it might have been Lil Yo-Yo, but I've just seen the KG That Comedian thumb for this morning. I mean, I had to double take because I wasn't sure who. I wasn't sure. I was like, well, yeah. You'll be redirected. You'll be redirected once this show ends in about 15 minutes to that one. I mean, yeah, it's excellent stuff. It's excellent. That is excellent. Well done. The hat tip to, if that was Joe Blackburn or if that was Lil Yo-Yo, it's very, very good. It's very, very good. Yes. So be sure to show them some love after this show is over. Marcus Rashford, right? So we were talking earlier on about Marcus Rashford and whether or not he was going to be on his way out of Manchester United. Well, certainly it looks like Rashford, all he's interested in is a move to Barcelona. So this was the latest on that one. Or it's not actually, because it doesn't say that. Look at that. I thought it said... but it just said Gyokeres again, which is annoying. So I'll read it out from here when I find it. It said Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford's transfer probability to Barcelona is 40%. Why only 40%? Because until this moment, there are no official negotiations between the two clubs. Rashford is one of the options on Barcelona's table. He is a player the club values, and they wanted to sign him last January, but Ansu Fati decided not to leave at the time. So the deal did not go through. Manchester United are asking for £40 million. So once again, we find ourselves, where's the button? There you go.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
It is Groundhog Day again, not literally, but when it pertains to Marcus Rashford, it is, because He only wants Barca. The same situation as it was in December and into January, where he wanted to move to the La Liga giants. Now that he's had his little loan spell at Aston Villa and he didn't want to stay there. Remember his first interview? I'm not going to be here for a long time, even though that was their option to stay for £40 million. He kind of really hinted then, didn't he, that I'm not going to be staying. He only wants Barca. Fabrizio Romano saying the likelihood of that happening this summer, less than 50%, less than half a chance it will happen. 40%. Of course, Barca, despite being La Liga champions, they still have to pull the levers and see if they can make up room. It rumbled on till January or February or March, didn't it, about Dani Olmo, whether he could be registered or not. So where are they going to find the money for Marcus Rashford to do that deal? United want 40 because he'd be a homegrown player. That means it would be pure profit and you could spend considerably more than £40 million on more players and rebuilding the squad. But if Rashford only wants Barca and Barca can't really afford it, what is Marcus Rashford prepared to do? Is he prepared just to wait and sit out the entire window until Barca come in at the last minute, possibly for a loan with an option to buy? Is that what Manchester United are even interested in doing? Is this going to be another saga that we can't move after for a Gyokeres? We can't move after a midfielder or someone else, a goalkeeper, because people are dragging their heels because they only want one club. It's been reported that the dream for Rashford is Barca, but is the dream even a reality, or is it just that a fantasy? That's the real question. Now, myself, to be honest, if Fabrizio Romano is saying that there's about a 40% chance of it happening, which is saying it's more likely it doesn't happen than it happens, it's close, but I'm leaning towards it likely not happening. That says a lot. that says a lot. And I circle back to what we were talking about earlier on in the show, when then where's he going to go? It screams loan to me. It does. And I know there's been the chatter of he'd be willing to take a pay cut to go to Barca. Well, I think you're going to have to take a pay cut, to be honest, wherever you're going to go, unless it's Saudi. And unless it's going to Saudi, which of course then you wouldn't have to take a pay cut. I mean, we're seeing this morning, even the sort of chatter about why he could go to Turkey or something. Leroy Sané's going to Galatasaray. That's not going to be cheap for them. He was on a big contract at Bayern Munich. I think it was over like 300. And I can't imagine he'd be getting less to go to Turkey. No disrespect to them. But so would they even have the funds to do it? They're also trying to still pull off Osimhen. Could you imagine if Galatasaray in the summer sign Leroy Sané and Osimhen? So with this one about Rashford going that it looks less likely than likely, close, but 40% versus 60. You go again, where's he going to go? It just, to me, it screams another Premier League club, doesn't it? Once again, a Premier League loan. Whether that's, does he go back to Villa? Villa are in the Europa League. Just missed out on the Champions League last summer. Can they even afford that? Villa, look, they've got their own PSR and FFP problems. And I know that, you see quite a few Villa fans complaining about this on social media or what have you, but the amount of money they spend on revenue to their wages is insane. Something like I think it's like 90%. So it's crazy. 90% of their revenue goes towards their wages. Effectively, they got in the Champions League 2 seasons ago, and they banked on really them staying in the Champions League, which they didn't, of course. Missed out on the last day. I mean, we beat them at Old Trafford. They were rubbish. There was the penalty situation. Well, not the penalty, the ball in the back of the net situation, whatever. But they didn't get there in the end. So could they even afford to get Marcus Rashford? I mean, really, without being disrespectful here, the only reason that Aston Villa were in the conversation for Rashford in January, because it did seem a bit of a surprise. Oh, Rashford's going to Aston Villa. It's because they were in the Champions League. Now that they're not, would he even want to go there? I don't know. But then, like I said, that's when you go back to them. Where would he go? Where would he go? Is it one of those ones a bit like last summer with Raheem Sterling, where you say to Rashford, and same with Sancho and these other players at the club, look, you're not even going to be in the Premier League squad. We will not register you. World Cup's coming up next summer. You missed out on the Euros last time. You don't want to miss out on the World Cup. You need to get a move sorted. Even if it's a loan, by the way, it's a loan and there will be an obligation to buy. So you decide where you want to go. Barca ain't coming in. We've heard nothing from Barca. So unless you can facilitate that move actually happening, if you can actually facilitate them being legitimately interested and putting an offer on the table, you're going to have to find somewhere else because, we need to move you on this summer. So is it going to be a Sterling one? And actually, look, if those reports are accurate, and you think that they are, if those reports are accurate about Ruben Amorim saying in front of the whole squad to Alejandro Garnacho, you better pray you can find a club next summer or in the summer. Keep the same energy. Keep the same energy with Rashford. Keep the same energy with Sancho. Keep the same energy for a lot of the sort of dead weight around Manchester United. The players that we need to move on this summer. You better pray you can find a club in the summer because you won't be playing here next year. We're not even going to register you. We're going to have a much smaller squad. We're in 3 competitions. We're playing Carabao Cup football in August. Remember the last time we did that? A long time. So you won't be needed. You won't be used. Find somewhere else. And you can have your heart set on Barca. You can have your heart set on, I believe I'm good enough to play for Barcelona. I'm good enough to play for the La Liga champions. Well, if they're not interested, they're not interested. You need to find somewhere else. I mean, frankly, you could make a very strong argument about, if Rashford's good enough to play for Barcelona with the caliber of players they've got. when it comes to Yamal, Rafinha, they're being linked to Ballon d'Ors, right? Some of the best players in the world over the last 12 months. So Rashford, if he went to Barca, what would he be there for? To sit on the bench? Probably, I mean, striker, they've still got Lewandowski. So, they've got other young players coming through. So, who knows? Rashford, does he... I mean, not even like a Bayern. I know they just lost Leroy Sané, but they bring Rashford in on loan. But they've got wide players. Like, they've got a very good, big squad. And the thing is what would be really interesting with this as well? Because I mentioned the Bundesliga stuff there. You would think logically that you go, well, Bayer Leverkusen, they've got Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag got the best out of Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford had the best season of his career in Erik ten Hag's first season. Erik likes signing his old players. They've just got a big bunch of money for this Florian Wirtz one. Maybe they'll go in for Rashi. Maybe they'll go in for Rashford. But there were rumours and rumblings, weren't there, of, well, Erik and Marcus weren't really on sort of the best footing when Erik ten Hag left. And, there was the thing about people that sort of said, thanks, boss, or whatever on social media. Rashford didn't do it. And I'd almost be surprised on that one because, I don't think. Well, certainly you heard the rumblings, didn't you, over the last 18 months of Ten Hag's tenure at United, that there was a lot of friction there. But at the same time, because he had got this, and this is how weird that whole situation got in the end. I in my opinion, I think there was friction there a lot between the player and the manager. I mean, look at the instance, whether it's the Belfast thing or after the City game and all of those instances. But because Ten Hag was desperate, because Rashford had delivered for him in the first season, he just kept backing him, kept putting him in the team. But you got the impression that they didn't really like each other. And it was also, you know what I mean? So I just don't think Ten Hag would revisit that as well. So, I don't think that one would happen. So it's already ticking off these clubs, isn't it? Going, all right, so Barca, from Richard saying that's 40% likely to happen. All right, we'll put a cross with a question mark over the top of that. Leverkusen, no. Saudi, I don't think he would want to go, so no. Clubs in Italy, would a Juventus? I mean, maybe like an Inter, might be interested. I mean, if they've got money to spend on Højlund, I know that's not exactly like for like, but maybe Rashford could go to like an Inter, maybe. Many past United players have gone to Inter and done well. So he could, and they've got money set aside because they got money to spend on Højlund, which would be around 30, 40-ish million pounds. So maybe a loan obligation to buy. AC Milan, they just got some money, obviously, for Reinders. So could put that in on Rashford. Again, it's not like for like. Could maybe do that. Napoli, obviously they've got De Bruyne on a free, and they might bring in Garnacho. But if Garnacho, if Garnacho doesn't go there again, they would have money put to one side, maybe, perhaps. Manish says, aren't Inter in financial trouble? Well, I heard that but this is the interesting thing. If they're in financial trouble, but they're still going after Rasmus Højlund, that would mean they've got money set aside. And about people saying about Rafael Leao, there's reports that he could be leaving, wasn't it? He could go to Saudi. Al Nassr were possibly interested in him. So there are dominoes that could fall there. And there could be money that's moved around. If Rafael Leao does go, and he does end up going to Saudi, then maybe they use that money to go get Rashford. Some would argue they would, and also as well as we have pointed out, Red Baron puts this out here. We're in financial trouble. we're in financial trouble. So when it comes to all of this kind of stuff, the Rasmus Højlund deal, they've got, again, you look at it, money set aside. If they've got money set aside to do a Rasmus Højlund deal, which obviously the wages are very significantly different. Rashford's on like 300, Højlund's on I think 85. But it could just be a situation where United go, look, again, loan, obligation to buy. We'll put, instead of giving you that money up front, we'll pay, instead of giving that big transfer fee like we would for Højlund, we'll put all of that money into the wages and we'll cover the majority of the wages. There won't be that much of a loan fee and we'll do this. There's lots of different ways around that, But this is always the worry, again, with these European clubs. It's the same way that the Sancho one's a problem and this Rashford one's a problem because the money in the Premier League isn't there like it is in Serie A, obviously Liga, unless you're PSG, in La Liga, unless you're, and even Barca can't afford it. They've got, like I said, Dani Olmo. How many different times did we hear stories about him not being able to be registered last year? It's always whoever Barcelona signed this summer, there will be the story about season's coming up and they still yet to be registered. It happens every season, every season with Barcelona. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Al Hilal will come in for Rashford at some point. Apparently they're going after everyone this summer and they're getting rejected by loads of people. But who knows? Who knows? So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see with Marcus Rashford. He wants a Barca move. Whether or not that's going to happen, time will only tell. And just very quickly, finally, reports this morning suggest that Real Betis, they're in for Antony, but not really in the way we would want them to be in, because according to Simon Jones from the Mail, it says Real Betis want further talks with Manchester United over a proposed deal for Antony. Betis are proposing another loan with an option to buy of around £35 million. No. And again, this is when we get into it this summer, when we earmark these players to leave. Antony will be going, he'll be going, no. We need permanent exits. And if they're going to be loans, we need obligation, but not the Chelsea obligation of actually can get out. We can pay a 5 million fee and they can get out of it. No. We need obligation written down. No way out. WWE pay-per-view settings. No way out. Okay. No loopholes, no clauses, anything like that. And I know Antony had a great time there. No loans, no anything like that. No options. No. The Antony loan worked out better than I think anyone thought it was going to. He went there, scored goals, got assists. Europa League conference final, he didn't really show up at all. But still, that added value onto him. It made him a bit more expensive. and he's a commodity that is going to be sold this summer. So, yeah, that's no. Just, I mean, it almost feels like sort of a courtesy offer, so they can say to Real Betis, "Well, we tried, we tried to put a bid in, but no, thank you." We'll see if other clubs put in those offers. Given again what he did in the Liga, you would hope there would be a maybe another La Liga club comes in for him. We shall see, but no loans, no loans. Obligation and a proper obligation, no options, nothing like that. No, thank you. Sav with the super chat says, so at the end of the day, we should have sold Bruno. Look, well, time will tell when it comes to this. Time will tell when it comes to that. Like I've said, we're still very, very, very early on in this transfer window, and there's still a lot of time to go. I know that because of that sort of fake closure yesterday of the deadline day and what have you, it was like, we've not moved fast. A lot will happen. We're in June at this point. A lot of these players are still on international duty. They haven't even gone on their holidays just yet. And it'll be interesting to see how much pace of just lots of transfers happen whilst this Club World Cup is on. I don't think no one really knows what to expect with this Club World Cup thing. Some days, and only speaking for myself, some days I look at it and go, yeah, this is going to be really exciting. And these clubs playing against each other. Other days I look at it and go, what's the fucking point of this whole thing? Just exhibition football just for money, and they get to wear the nice badges. But then will the transfer window be operating really quickly during that tournament? I don't know. This summer is going to be weird. This summer's already been very weird. So I don't really know what to expect. But in terms of these outgoings, this is why I started the show with that. Historically, we're not good at it. And this summer we have to be good. And we have to be ruthless and try and force these things to happen. So we shall see. So there is the transfer view for you this morning, guys. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. We're 3 likes away from 500 likes. So if you haven't already, click that like button. Let's see if we can get to 500 on the way out. Be sure to subscribe. As you can see in the top right-hand corner, we're 195,000 subscribers, 211 as we get closer to 200K. And Ronnie's been a member for a month, so saw the Brazil game last night and was really impressed with Cunha and got the assist. I know people getting very excited. And Helg, good for Helg. He's been very unhappy in the last few minutes in the chat. He says, look, it's nonsense. He's very, very unhappy. It won't happen. We're talking quotes of shit. Helg's furious. Helg's absolutely furious. He says, look, this presenter's low level. He's absolutely furious. He says, first time I've watched the channel today. It's the last time. Never seen anything with so little knowledge. Just talking there and pointless shit. We'll see you tomorrow, mate. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. And because it's always the way, isn't it? Always the way. I'm not tuning in until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Okay, until tomorrow, 9 a.m. And I'll be back. And then I won't. Then I'll say that's the first time. That's the first time. That is gonna be. Yeah, that's the first time. Anyway, guys, have a good one. What's coming up later today? Oh, there'll be probably some kind of flex video probably coming up later today. On top of that, Football Flex, there's going to be a video coming out about the Florian Wirtz stuff shortly after this as well. Stay tuned on this thing because you'll be redirected over to KG Stream. Have a good one, and I'll speak to you again soon. I'm out of here. Peace.